with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
Trustee Hein?
Present.
Trustee Here?
Here.
Trustee Lang?
Here.
Trustee Brady?
Here.
Trustee Kruger informed the board she would not be here this evening, and President Argyros.
Here, thank you. Citizens' concerns, comments? Changes to the agenda, anything?
None this evening, thank you.
Ms. Apontos?
Here we go.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. A few weeks ago, the board listened to a discussion regarding crosswalks for Milwaukee Avenue and Dundee Road. I think that's a topic that the entire town can come together on and agree. We need to safely be able to cross our streets without getting killed. It didn't sound like there was a lot of hope. I mean, maybe one, and if and not, and I went home that night and thought about it. What can we as citizens do? Isn't it time that we know which representatives to contact, which congressmen? Who do we need to contact in the state of Illinois, and what should we say to help our residents get across the street safely? I know we all have our favorite spot we'd like to see. As Trustee Brady mentioned, if you go down Milwaukee from Dundee to Hintz, it's at least 3/4 of a mile. One would think someplace around halfway would be nice. And you can come right out here, and there's a bridge and goes to the rec center, and people cross illegally. So there's a lot of different places. But perhaps if the village helped the residents, told us what to say, told us who to contact, maybe we could get something done. Thank you.
You want to comment?
My only response would be it's not really a state legislature issue. It's a qualification standard from IDOT. So it's really an IDOT issue. So I would say if there are questions, concerns, or recommendations that you contact IDOT. I don't have a name. We can certainly come up with one. But that's what it is. It's really a standard for how many people are crossing the street at any particular location. Because I think IDOT's concern, not to speak for them, is that the thought that there is a safe way to cross the street is concerning when, if you have too many of those, cars don't necessarily follow the rules. You know, people don't necessarily know what to do. So they have those standards put in place so that a false sense of security isn't established on any corridor. And then, of course, there's the cost and then traffic flow and all of that, and IDOT would be much better able to respond to that. But we can get a name, and that way you have someone other than the Village of Wheeling saying yes or no, and you have the actual authority that can do that.
The more people, the better, and it is an election year. And I think maybe our state reps or somebody else can also be the squeaky wheel to get the oil. And the more people who comment and can make a statement, the better chance we'll be listened to. Thank you.
Sure. Sure. Anybody else? Thank you. Staff reports. Director Weezer.
Good evening, President Argyros. I'd like to invite the residents. The Senior Citizens Commission invites you to an informal, informational meeting regarding reverse mortgages. Mr. Terry Bivens, a reverse mortgage specialist, will provide general information regarding your options as a homeowner over 60. This is not a sales presentation. Mr. Bivens is a recognized expert in the reverse mortgage industry and a resource for the state of Illinois, Department on Aging, and the City of Chicago's Department on Aging and Housing. Please join us on Wednesday, September 10th at 7 p.m. at the Wheeling Pavilion Senior Center at 199 North First Street in Wheeling. If you have any questions or would like more information, please contact us at 847-459-2670.
Thank you, Sherry. Director Melanthony.
Thank you, President Argyros. I'd like to take the opportunity to promote and encourage all of our residents and businesses to attend the Taste of the Town 2014 event on Thursday, October 9th from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Westin Chicago North Shore at 601 North Milwaukee Avenue. The theme of the event is Celebrate a Healthy Harvest. Guests can sample from over 20 restaurants, wineries, and breweries taste of Italian, Asian, American, Korean, Mexican cuisines, and more. There will be live entertainment as well as cooking demonstrations. Registration information is available on the Chamber website, wphchamber.com. The cost is $30 through October 8th and $40 at the door. The event highlights all the great restaurants in Wheeling's famous Restaurant Row, from Tuscany to Benihana, Bob Chin's Crab House, Cooper's Hawk, Pete Miller's, Twin Peaks, Spears, Serenello's, The Ram, Buca de Beppo, Sullivan's, Superdog, Wapagetti, as well as Pinstripes. I hope that you can join us. It's going to be a fun night, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent Hazelwood, how are you?
Yes, fine. Good evening. I'd just like to report that as part of our ongoing sign management maintenance method, as part of the MUTCD, Manual Traffic Control Device Manual, we have replaced 11 new ID signs in the Fox Run subdivision, 1 new speed limit sign, a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit sign, 2 new no parking this side of street signs, and there are 2 yield signs that are slated to be installed as per direction of the traffic unit of the Wheeling Police Department. And this is just an ongoing thing that we perform with sign maintenance.
I appreciate it. I know we got a couple emails from some concerned citizens there, and you guys acted promptly along with the police department. We appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Director Janik?
Mark, before you go, just so that the board knows, following that information, just want to let the board know that we will be bringing both of those yield signs before you for the appropriate legislation that needs to accompany them. That should be on the next board meeting's agenda.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
I'd like to inform the board and the public that are watching that one of our major projects, the storm sewer installation on Strong Street, 8th Street, and then the easement along Mayor has been, the piping has all been located underground, and they're starting to clean up that area, both the easement as well as the streets. I'm expecting that cleanup should be taking place this week, and I'm hoping that patchwork with the asphalt will take place next week.
Okay. Heritage Park project update. What's going on over there?
Heritage Park is getting close to being turned over to the Park District. However, there's a long punch list of items that need to be addressed by the contractor before acceptance by the Park District is going to take place. I'm not privy to all the contract issues relative to the Park District, MWRD, and the contractor. My understanding is we meet with them every 2 weeks, or we're invited to meet with them every 2 weeks. My understanding is that they should be close to handing the park over by late October. But there is a long list of items for them to accomplish. I'm not sure exactly how long that's going to take them, and I'm not exactly sure where they are exactly relative to concerns that they haven't completed the work on time. I know that the date for completion was earlier this year in the spring. Obviously now it's fall, and I'm not sure how they're going to work that out.
I would ask one thing before these guys take off. Either go over with your inspectors, the property owners to the south of that property, to make sure that whatever damage, whatever hasn't been done regarding fencing, berming, whatever needs to be done on any of those homes along Jeffrey that butt up to that property there at the Park District, that is in good repair and fixed and looking nice. That is our job. I don't care what the Park District or MWRD, they have a responsibility to those residents over there, and it needs to be addressed. Because to go chase these contractors later on after they're gone, you getting calls, I'm getting calls and emails from a lot of those residents over there, wondering what is going on.
Yeah, we have been contacted by them, and we have also talked to the Park District and the contractor about the situation over there, and they recognize their responsibilities.
And what is the game plan? Does anybody know maybe from the police department or from your department regarding that road to the south? Are folks going to have access to that road, or do they have to go all the way around the Community Boulevard or Northgate Parkway that live off it in that subdivision over there?
The road to the south.
South, yes.
I mean, the parking lot?
The parking lot, isn't there a road to the south that you can go to the parking lot or cut through, or?
Well, there's a right-in, right-out access on Wolf Road that you can access the parking lot, but there is no other public access that I know of that you can use to access that parking lot. It's strictly from the access on Wolf Road, right-in, right-out.
And where does it go? And where does it go? Just into a parking lot?
Long parking lot, that's correct,
A
along the
long
south
parking
property line, that's correct.
There is an emergency vehicle access that goes between two homes that connects that parking lot to Jeffrey. Is
That's
that
correct.
But that's emergency vehicles only.
Okay. Do me a favor, Mark, when you get a chance, maybe this week, the board would appreciate, can we see a layout on where that thing looks today? The park, with the parking lot and the drive that we're talking
Sure.
about, and the bridge? You know, we saw things a couple years ago, and I'm sure things have changed, but something actual, close to actual. So we have something to say to the residents, because the residents are calling me all the time about, and I've referred them to you, and you've done a great job returning those calls, but I'd like to know, and I think everybody on this board would like to know, what is the game plan over there, and how's this thing really work regarding access, driving through, getting through the parking lot, the bridge? I mean, how do we use it? You know, what are we doing? So
No problem.
if you can get that to us, I would appreciate it. Okay? 13A, Madam Clerk.
New business, all listed items for discussion and possible action. 13A, resolution exercising the renewal option and authorizing the village president to execute a food service contract for the Wheeling Pavilion Senior Center.
Thank you. Director Weezer.
Good evening. The Department of Human Services is requesting the acceptance of the food service contract with Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Chicago to provide catering services for the Wheeling Pavilion Senior Center Congregate Dining Program. This contract is a renewal of a catering contract to provide meals to the congregate program. As per the contract, the cost of the meals will be increased from $4.36 per meal to $4.45 per meal beginning October 1st. And we are slated to provide about 4,200 meals this year.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
So moved. Second.
Motion by trustee Brady, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Jarrett?
Yes, thank you. 13B.
Ordinance declaring a surplus and authorizing the disposition of personal property owned by the Village of Wheeling for donation to the Frisbee Senior Center.
Thank you. Director Weezer.
Good evening again. Staff has been continuously monitoring the current inventory of medical equipment and has determined that we have much more inventory of durable medical lending for our medical lending closet than we will need in the future. Based on this determination, we are asking the board to declare the unneeded medical equipment as surplus personal property owned by the village, to allow for the donation to the Frisbee Senior Center and displays for their use at their medical lending closet.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Entertain a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by trustee Lang, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Jarrett?
Yes, thank you. 13C.
13C, ordinance granting a special use and associated site plan and appearance approval for a drive-through Dunkin' Donuts restaurant at 749 North Milwaukee Avenue, docket number 2014-14.
Thank you. Director Janik, and I understand there's at least 7 conditions to this ordinance? So when you get done,
That's correct.
mention them, okay?
There's a proposal tonight for our Dunkin' Donuts. The petitioners are here tonight to have any questions answered. Generally speaking, this is the approximately 1,800 square feet of a building that's the very north end of the existing building that's at the western property. It's right next to the subway that was recently approved. This Dunkin' Donuts is going to have a drive-through along the very north edge of the building. There'll be 25 seats in the restaurant. The operations of the Dunkin' Donuts are, completely similar to virtually every other Dunkin' Donuts. There are also 12 seats being proposed outside the building on a patio, and the petitioner is considering having this building open 24 hours a day.
Great. Director Melanti, you want to add anything to that?
Thank you, President Argyris. This is a use that we pursued once we looked at the prohibited uses in the redevelopment agreement. This is going to be a sales tax generating use, complementing Subway, taking care of a different day part, and allowing the not only the hotel patrons but residents and visitors a convenient access to donuts and coffee. And this space has been vacant since it was developed, and we see this as a great use of the property in conjunction with Subway and Spears and PostNet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Petitioners are here. Why don't you step forward, gentlemen, and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Steve Colber, the architect for the site.
Okay.
And with me,
Kareem Koji, I'm the franchisee for the site.
Good. Questions from the board? Trustee Hine.
Thank you. In the findings and fact and also the conditions for approval, there's been some talk about a grease trap. Is that grease trap being put in, or is it a requirement? Do we require them to put in a grease trap?
We do require Dunkin' Donuts to have a grease trap. It'll be a small one in the interior because of the fact that Dunkin' Donuts does not have a lot of, that they don't cook a lot like a normal restaurant would. Prepackaged stuff, they microwave stuff, but they don't create a lot of grease. So uses like this, we don't require them to have an exterior 500-gallon or 1,000-gallon grease trap. We allow them to put it in the interior. Subway's very similar.
And that grease trap will be connected to the master grease trap that is over there for all the existing restaurants?
No, it will not. There is no master grease trap for all the existing restaurants. Twin Peaks has their own. They have a very large one. It's 5,000 gallons. Cooper's Hawk has their own. It's 1,000 gallons. Spears has their own. So there's no master grease trap for all those restaurants. So they all have separate ones, and they all get them cleaned out by themselves.
Okay. It's my understanding that right now we have a situation over there where we do have some surcharging of the grease traps over there at the existing restaurants. I understand that some of the grease traps over there have been flowing into our system, and it's causing some problems over there relative to them being cleaned out on a regular basis. I just want to make sure that we're not adding to the problem over there until we can get something going on over there, from what I understand.
No, you're correct, Trustee Hine. There's a situation at the Weston property. I personally know a lot about this. Our health department deals with this situation, as well as public works personnel dealing with the sanitary sewers themselves. The grease traps themselves, or the grease basins themselves, are not the issue right now, I don't believe. It's actually the piping in between the grease basins, and we're getting to the bottom of it. There was a surcharge in Milwaukee Avenue approximately a month and a half ago that Public Works had to clean up, and then Jet clean some of the sanitary sewers. And there is an issue at the Weston property. There's a lot of restaurants there. They are cleaning their grease basins out, but I believe that there's a residual grease that's in the pipes themselves that need to get cleaned out. We're working on that. But in this particular case, for this particular restaurant and use, we're not concerned about grease being produced by this particular restaurant. It just doesn't historically. We know this.
Thank you. The only other question I have is relative to the sidewalk. In the conditions, it mentions the fact that the sidewalk would be put in. Let's see here. Hang on one second here. Is there not a sidewalk that is at the end of your property over there?
there's a sidewalk that's being removed to create the drive-through. And one of the conditions that was put upon by the previous committee was that a sidewalk at some point be added to the north end of our curb of the drive-through. Initially, we showed it in our drawings, but the the owner of the property has committed, he has a project that he's putting on there. And so there was a time frame, and I forget exactly what was agreed to, but a time frame that was put forth that within, I believe it was 6 months, that plan didn't materialize, that the owner of the property would have to put that sidewalk in. But the owner wanted to reserve the right because he was still designing the site and didn't want to put a sidewalk in if it might be located somewhere else within the site.
But our ordinance requires that a sidewalk be put in within 6 months of occupancy if Building B is not constructed.
That's correct. If the owner, and I forget exactly how the condition read at the last meeting, but the ownership group is prepared to, if in fact their plans don't materialize, to put that sidewalk in per the conditions.
Thank you.
The sidewalk is where, along the building?
No,
Or along the property line?
Currently, there's one, well, the property line, actually, where the drive-through is going straddles the property line.
Okay.
And part of the condition as well was the proper easements to do what we need to do for this. What our plan shows is the sidewalk that's just directly north of the building right now, which is going to go away because of the drive-through, on the north curb line of the new drive-through, to put a new sidewalk, was what we intend to do if, in fact, the ownership group does not develop the site to the north.
And where's the sidewalk go?
Just directly east-west.
To where? Where does it end?
It ends at the parking lot on both sides. It was requested of us to put that sidewalk in from one end of this parking lot to the next.
Mark? Why?
The reason why is because there was concern that there wouldn't be pedestrian access going east to west from, say, the west end coming over to Subway or Dunkin' Donuts or wherever else they were coming over to. The owner of the property is considering building another building just to the north. The reason why the sidewalk was being pushed off 6 months was to give him time to come in with his building design, where he was going to locate it, and how he was going to deal with pedestrian traffic going in between the buildings.
I see.
That's the situation.
Okay. You want to read the 7 conditions?
Sure.
And then, any other questions from the board while he's doing that?
No, I had the question, thank you, about the traffic,
Okay.
but I read the minutes, but because the traffic issue, even at the one down here, it just happens at specific times. I mean, you should see that road down there, and I know they've done studies, they've looked at it, and I don't know what the answer should be to try to correct it. There's just going to be some accidents down there one day, because the way people pull into the one down on Wheeling Road. But I read this, and I'm okay for it right now, but, I mean, once it goes in, but I would like to see what that new building's going to look like, how it may even shadow the drive-through. It'll just be driving between two buildings, which is
Right.
going to be an odd thing. But
Just one, maybe petitioner wants to explain to trustee here some of the improvements that you were going to do at the first Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, we're making some changes at this.
Oh, you're the owner of that one, too. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you.
We're gonna
What kind
make
of
some-
changes, so everybody in the public can hear it?
We're going to make some changes so the cars coming in can't go straight to the drive-through menu board. We're going to force them to go around so they stack inside the lot and not out in the street.
Oh, okay. And when, I saw a plan of that a while back that was given to us. When do you plan on implementing that?
Probably in the next 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
We're
But,
working through the plans with the architects right now.
okay, so you've got something that's going on.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
We understand what's going on over there, and
Oh, sure.
we're going
I mean,
to.
I'm glad it's busy. I really am glad.
Yeah, and the second site will take away some pressure also from this site, which is not, has nothing to do with the other, but it will help alleviate some of the pressure.
Well, I'm just happy that you're busy. That's the most important thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, Mark, one sec. I just got one more thing here. This patio, where's this patio going? Right in front of the windows there with the awnings?
Yes, it's going in directly to the west of the building. As you walk in, there's a small area for 3 tables, I believe.
And we're going to put new awnings there? There were awnings there at one time.
I believe there's an awning on the building, along the front of the building, but not over the area that's being, where the people are being seated. There might be some umbrellas there, but there won't be an awning.
Yeah, the plan is 3 tables with umbrellas,
With or without an awning?
without an awning.
Without an awning.
Without an awning, correct.
So you're not
Awnings will
putting
be
it
on the building, but not over the seating area.
Okay, so there's any special modifications? Because he's putting awnings on there?
I don't, I can't remember if there's an awning on the building. Is there an awning on the front of the building?
You can see from the existing photographs, there are awnings on the buildings, and we are adding the Duncan gradient tower elements and changing the awnings to the orange color, just at our storefront.
And you're able to put umbrellas under there with tables?
Well, we are building out where the parking is, where would be a parking
Further
landscape
west?
edge.
Okay.
Where, per the commission's, previous commission's recommendations, we've widened that to 2 parking spots.
Okay.
So it's roughly 18 feet wide by 18 feet deep. It's away from the building, so it's on the other side of the walk. So there's plenty of room for 3 tables with a landscape edge, as was requested, at the street, at the parking lot, right at the parking lot edge.
Okay.
And there's going to be bollard lights in there, too.
Well, that helps here. Okay.
I think if you go, there you go. You can see the site plan there that shows the 3 tables.
Okay.
It's a little confusing, but the middle drawing there, it shows a little detail of the 3 tables outside the building.
Okay, so no awnings will be over it, it'll just be umbrellas, so you don't have to sprinkle or any of that stuff with it?
Correct.
Gotcha, okay. Mark, go ahead with the conditions.
Okay. Condition number 1, that an easement for the drive-through lane, which is located partially on the adjacent property, shall be provided prior to issuance of the final certificate of occupancy. Number 2, that the pavement markings for the drive-through lane shall be extended to the south. Number 3, that the landscaping in the patio shall match the theme of the adjacent landscaping to the south of the subject unit. Number 4, the sidewalk next to the drive-through is to be installed within 6 months of occupancy if Building B is not yet constructed. Number 5, that the petitioner shall install signage directing pedestrians to the existing south crosswalk. Number 6, that the petitioner use a 5/8-inch hardy panel and provide a base of 4 to 6 inches at ground level. And number 7, that the frequency of trash pickup shall be increased if the current schedule is found to be inadequate.
Thank you. If there aren't any more questions, I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Lang. Second by?
Second.
Second by trustee Vogel. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes, thank you. Good luck, fellas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. 13D.
Item, discussion regarding allocation of Heritage Park stormwater storage credits.
Thank you. Manager Svandolis.
Thank you. This evening, staff wanted to provide an opportunity to explain a little bit and seek some direction from the village board regarding some acre feet, an asset that the village owns, and it is related to the Heritage Park development. Mr. Janik is going to go through some of the details of exactly what an acre foot is, what compensatory storage is, how it's calculated, and so forth. But I wanted to introduce this conversation by just reminding the board that it is a very unique opportunity that we own over 20 acre feet, and there's, again, there will be an explanation of that number, of storage because of the construction at Heritage Park and some work that the village has done in order to buy those acre feet. I say it's unique because normally municipalities don't have that as an asset, and therefore the question is, what do we do with it? And ultimately there are 2 paths that we can go down. One, we can treat that asset as further incentive for development, or we can treat it as a revenue stream. Because we own it, we can sell it as necessary as developments come before the board. So there's really 2 divergent avenues that we can follow, and all we're really looking for tonight is philosophically, where is the board thinking we should go with this? Treat it as further incentive, or use it as an asset that could become a revenue stream that when a developer comes in, they will need acre feet of storage. We just happen to have that to sell. So it's revenue stream or incentive. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Janik for some more detail on exactly what we're talking about.
Thank you. You guys have the memorandum. It's detailed. It's relatively detailed. I'm going to go through the definitions of detention, compensatory storage, acre foot, and then ask me questions. I mean, I can go through this memorandum. I can go through each topic if you'd like. But you probably have a bunch of questions for me. I know we've talked about this topic before, but we'll just go over it again. It's a good time to go over it. Northgate Crossing just asked us for some compensatory storage. There was some relief provided to a property owner in the north part of the village relative to compensatory storage. We have a development that's right down the street here, across the street from us, just to the east, that's going to be asking for, I'm not sure what they're going to be asking for. I assume they're going to be asking for some compensatory storage and probably some detention. I'm really not sure yet. They don't have their final drawings. But it's probably just a good time to go over what we have and how the staff is dealing with it. So we'll just start off with these definitions I have here in the beginning. Detention basin. Detention is stormwater that it runs off a site, and the reason why it's running off the site is because development has impervious surface that they want to include on the property. That's either paving, that's a building, it could be anything that changes the pervious nature of ground. When I say pervious nature, that means how water is allowed to go into the ground. So if you have a flat farm field that's just been plowed, it's a very relatively pervious because it's opened up, there's no grass on it, it's very hard to really run off a farm field. A lot of the water gets soaked in, some does run off depending on how much water is out there. But anytime a development creates additional water than is running off, say today from a raw site, you need to detain that water and then hold it for a certain amount of time. And every village and every county has certain requirements for how long you have to hold that water. You have what's called a restrictor pipe at the end of a detention basin, and that allows the water to come out of the detention basin at a certain rate. It could be a 6-inch pipe, it could be a 4-inch pipe, it could be a 12-inch pipe. Our new stormwater system over here on Strong and Mayor, the restrictor on that, our pipe is about 60 inches wide in diameter, but the restrictor on that is 12 inches. So the water comes out of there out of a 12-inch pipe. It backs up into the stormwater piping and it's stored there. So we're doing detention there as well as we're releasing it at a certain rate. Right now we have, when the park is finished, and we talked about that tonight, it hasn't been handed over yet, but there's 10 acre feet, additional 10 acre feet that we have that's going to be in Heritage Park that we can use for whatever development, however you want to use it. Compensatory storage. Compensatory storage is used when a development or whenever a property is in the floodplain and you fill the area of a site that's in the floodplain. The idea is that if the floodplain is at, say, 0 and you fill, that's not a good example. If you fill any amount of area of the floodplain, you need to compensate for the volume of water that was sitting in that floodplain. So let's say the floodplain is at 1 and the property is at 0, it's 1 foot. If you fill that entire foot, you need to compensate for that foot of water that you're displacing, because it has to go somewhere. And so counties, cities, they've come up with different formulas for compensating for that water. And a lot of times, instead of just a 1-to-1, instead of replacing that amount of displacement, they require you to have more than that. In the village of Wheeling, we require 1.5 times. So if you displace 1 foot of water in a 1 foot area, you need to replace that with 1.5 cubic feet of water, right? Just 1.5 times whatever you're displacing. The new code for the MWRD code for Cook County is 1.1. Right now it's I'm not sure what it is right now. I think it's 1. I think they're increasing it to 1.1. Lake County is 1.1 is 1 to 1. McHenry County is 1.5 to 1. Now you can go more stringent than that. Our village is more stringent than that. We have 1.5. Northbrook is 1.5. Arlington Heights is 1.5. Buffalo Grove is 1.1. And in some areas of Buffalo Grove is 1.2. Depends on where it is. Some areas of floodplain are, if you fill there, it has more effect than others, at least in some people's minds. So we have 26 acre feet of compensatory storage that's going to be in Heritage Park. So we have 36 acre-feet total, 10 detention, 26 of compensatory storage. The reason why that's important for the village is because we have a lot of property in the village. When I say a lot of property, I'm talking maybe like 50 acres. That is along our major roadways, particularly Dundee here, it's in the floodplain. All the property across the street here is mostly in the floodplain. The property at the northwest corner of Dundee and Northgate, that's in the floodplain. Kmart, you can see in the map I have here, Kmart, which is in blue all the way to the west. It's a almost 11-acre site. Now, there's not very much floodplain there, but there is a corner, the southeast corner is in the floodplain. The 20-acre site that's in green, almost 21 acres, that's Northgate Crossing. That's the one that just came into the village and requested some compensatory storage from you guys, and it's in the development agreement right now. It's a range between 2.5 and 3.0 acre-feet of storage that they need. We're not exactly sure where that's going to be. In my memo, I refer to it as 2.75 acres. I just interpolated in between there. So that's going to help Northgate Crossing get their buildings on the property. The reason why it's important to developers is because when they have to put detention or compensatory storage on their property, it takes away valuable property to them that they could put buildings on, or they could put something on where they could make money. Now, sometimes they want that water on their property because it's a feature. They'll put buildings around it. They'll put, for residential or even for commercial, and they'll use it as a value added. But when you're in the floodplain, especially when you're a multiple, you do more than just detention, and you have compensatory storage, it's just a lot of digging on the property, a lot of property that they're using up, and to them, to have some place off-site that they can locate the storage, it's very important. That's overview on detention, compensatory, and the acre-foot. Now, the acre-foot measurement, I didn't really go over. Just imagine 1 acre of land, and you have to fill 1 foot on that land. That's 1 acre-foot of water, and you have 26 acre-feet compensatory in the park.
If you, is it surface, footage, or depth?
It's depth and surface.
And surface.
It could be, you could fill it 3 inches, but it could be 9 acres. So then you make a calculation about how many acre-feet that is.
Okay. So in other words, if somebody puts an underground parking garage, they're going to need a lot more comp storage.
It depends on what the depth of that garage is. Now, when you're digging down, sometimes you'll have developments where they'll dig below the floodplain, and they won't have to provide any compensatory storage. So they might have parking. They might dig down to 6 inches, and they could store water in that parking lot and still have the park in there.
Okay.
But they won't have to provide any compensatory storage there. They'll have to provide detention, but not compensatory storage.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Trustee Lang?
Mark, can we provide any relief for the portion of Wheeling Road that floods with this plan?
You wouldn't provide relief for Wheeling Road. What you would do at Wheeling Road, I mean, some of that area is in the floodplain. Now, that's a public road, okay? What most likely is going to happen there is that we're going to dig, or at some point in the future, you're going to dig basins. You're going to raise Wheeling Road, and then on both sides, you're going to dig a basin, and that's where the water is going to be stored. And then it's going to release under the train tracks to Heritage Park. That's what most likely is going to happen there. And the stormwater management plan that we're coming up with, this report from CBEL, that's most likely what they're going to suggest. I'm not sure, the priority-wise, but that road really needs to be raised and then provide storage on both sides or one side. So when the water comes there, it doesn't go on the road.
And that's the major issue, it's so low in that area.
That's correct. You can tell, you drive down and you come back up, and that's where the water sits.
Thank you.
Trustee Hein?
Nothing right now, thank you.
Trustee Brady?
How do we determine the need of the developer, the real need of the developer? The difference of, let's say, this piece of property across from St. Joe's here. It's a nice piece of property. We've seen that it's rather odd shaped because of the fact that both it's in floodplain and floodway. and he's limited to, whoever is going to build there is limited to what he can do. Plus, the village is going to look for 17 feet or somewhere, some donation towards the future widening of Dundee Road. Now, there'd be a perfect example of a dire need for some help with floodplain.
That's correct. That's a good question. And
then now you have a developer, unless he's going to build apartment buildings. He can get 10 buildings on his property. But if we gave him some free storage, he could put 12 buildings on it. Now, what's the difference between 10 and 12 buildings? What's profitable, what isn't profitable? And same way with even retail. How do we determine that giving up the water rights, the storage rights now are really, is this going to make this guy richer, or is it going to be the difference between building or not building?
right now, the way the staff views a situation like that, and we did the same, we did that with Northgate Crossing. We're doing it right now with that development. And our job to us is that we view this as a very valuable asset. Okay, and we haven't monetized it, at least staff hasn't. So whenever somebody comes to us and we know, we know that they're going to need some relief there if they go in. So whenever somebody comes to us, Northgate Crossing, when they came to us, we told them, look, we want you guys to put as much detention and comp on your property until you can't do the project. Basically, that's what we tell them. Now, how do we know exactly when that point is? We really don't know. But it's also not staff's job to make the determination about how much one developer should get or another. So the way we have looked at it is that we try to get them to put as much on their property as possible. And then we come to you and say, look, here's the development. Here's the pros and cons of development. And I think, you guys have been up here long enough, so you know a lot of the pros and cons already. Some properties are, for instance, Northgate Crossing, that's an apartment complex. It's taxed at commercial rates, so it's taxed at higher than, say, residential, okay? So there's some value there. And maybe there's some value in what the parcel, the buildings look like, where it is, what it's going to do for, people coming into town to spend money at restaurants, whatever it might be. So we try to get them to put as much on their property as possible. And then once we're satisfied that they're trying to do that, we bring it to you guys. So when there's concept review, or when we just talk to you informally about projects and what's going on, if you guys ask questions, we say, okay, they're going to need some help. Do you want this use or not? I mean, some of these uses you guys aren't going to want. If some factory wanted to go there and they want to change the zoning and they wanted relief for all their compensatory storage, we would say, it's very, very doubtful you're going to get this. These guys in particular, the elderly housing, they've been to you for a concept review. There's been some idea of, maybe it would work. So we haven't told them that they can have all they want. We've told them, just like we told Northgate Crossings, put as much on your property as possible. We'll review it, and then we'll take it to the board and see what they say.
Yeah, I see the opportunity for some developers to take advantage of the situation and try to get more than they're probably entitled to. And then, don't we have to, I think we should couple that with, how many units an acre is a normal development? How many units an acre are they planning on building? How much TIF money are they looking for? All these things, you just keep giving. Someplace you have to draw a line. You can use all that up in a couple of years or save it for, there's going to be other redevelopments around here. They're going to need some of that. We should put a little bit of that in the bank instead of looking at how we can give it all away right now.
Some uses are going to come to you and they're not going to ask for any money, but they're going to ask for compensatory storage, or they're going to ask for detention. I think that's the situation with this development. I'm not sure, but they might not ask for any money at all. They might not ask for any infrastructure improvements, but they will say, look, I need compensatory storage. I just don't have the area on my site, the way the site's shaped. And you're right, they have floodway over there as well. You can't put anything in the floodway. So it's going to be different. It's a case-by-case situation.
It's going to have to be, and we're going to have to analyze everything because, there's an awkward piece of property there, and how do you fit a building on it? And yeah, that would be a classic one that would be eligible in my book. Some of these other ones that want to come in and build right to the property lines and straight up, and say, well, we need more storage because we don't have no room. Well, knock one of the buildings off and you'll have room. So, okay, good.
Trustee here?
Questions were asked and answered, thank you.
Attorney Ferrello?
If I may, in response to Trustee Brady's question, I think when we look at this, we should look at it like we look at giving TIF money. We do what's called a but-for analysis. We bring in economic experts and TIF consultants, and we ask the developer to prove that but for the TIF money, he could not build the project. But for the compensatory storage or detention on Heritage Lake, he could not build this project. It's a great question. It's not a matter of, but for the compensatory storage, this developer cannot get as rich as possible. It's really about whether or not they can build. And we try to help them get to the point where they can build. And what TIF consultants look at, Ken, is whether or not a developer can make a reasonable rate of return, some profit. And that rate of return might be 10% in some markets, might be less, might be a little higher, depending on the development. But I think that classic but-for analysis can be applied to compensatory storage at Heritage Park, just like we apply it to TIF money. Because the developer may say, if you don't give me TIF or compensatory storage, I'm going to have to go underground. I'm going to have to store underground. And that's going to cost, that's very expensive. That's going to cost a lot of money. I'm going to be asking you for that TIF money so I can make that reasonable rate of return. Using that wisely, the storage at Heritage Park, we could save a lot of TIF money we might otherwise have to spend for underground storage. But I think just a good way to think about it is we will ask the developer to make a case, that not the case that they want to get as rich as possible. The case of but for the storage, we can't put a good project together. I mean, that's really, I think, so how we apply the detail to that, that's going to take some work, but that's the general overlay.
I think it's important we do look at that.
I do too.
Thank you.
Trustee Hein?
Thank you. That's a very difficult question when you start working with developers and you've got, they're asking for TIF money and also some relief in flood control and so on and so forth. But there's how much land do we own as a village that the parcels that we do own, are they, when we go to develop these or sell them to a developer, we bought those pieces of property at prime prices a few years ago. And I think we should take in consideration that we use some of this storage on some of the land that we do own, that if it is, if it's flood prone and so on and so forth, so that we get our dollar value back in what we got invested in these properties. And also, the value of the development is going to predicate how much they get in comp storage and TIF. So we have to base it on that. Where are we going and where are we spending our money? And how much are we giving relief to them so that we get this property on the tax rolls and we get some good revenue producing properties out of it. Let's not spend it all and all of a sudden we get a good development and we don't have anything left. That's what we have to be careful of.
Thank you. Mark, you touched base on the formula 1.5 to 1. When did that come into place and why do we deviate so much from what the county requires? Do you know?
I believe that standard was implemented by the village back in the early 90s. Exactly why, I can't tell you exactly why. I do know that at that time period we were beginning to try to get the village to get in the CRS program. Help us with the National Flood Insurance Program as well. And I believe that we have, floodplain in the village has been, a very big deal for a long time. But I believe that that it was part of that. I believe that there was a lot of concern. Why some municipalities have stronger than others, why McHenry County is 1.5 to 1 and Lake County is not, I really can't answer a lot of those questions.
And how would it hurt the community if we followed the standard of Cook County and lowered our 1.5 to 1 to 1.1 to 1?
How would it hurt us?
If we did it, would it hurt us? In your opinion?
Theoretically speaking, if you're replacing the amount of water that you're displacing, if you're replacing that somewhere else, today it held 10 acre feet and I was going to replace it with 10 acre feet over here. I think that, there's rationale that would say, it's a wash for all intents and purposes. No pun intended, but
I like to
it would be
explore
the
that
same.
more, John, and see what we can do regarding the code itself. If it's been since 1990, it's 25 years ago. We need to look at that. Because you know what? You compare Northbrook to 1.5 to 1, or Arlington Heights. These are towns that are 3-4 times the size of our town. And I think we lose sight that we're one square box that is landlocked. And to put that kind of stringency on any type of future development that goes on, especially with everything that we've done since 1990, regarding flood mitigation, the diversionary channel, the Buffalo Creek stabilization program, we've gone over and beyond any of our predecessors have ever thought about doing in this community to help with flooding issues here. And now going through the study to even go that further step and having an asset of 26 acre feet of offsite comp storage that we own, which is unheard of and a lot of communities wish they had. I'd like to have a workshop on that so we can discuss that, where you can do a little homework with your engineer and get back to us on that. Because if it's good enough for Cook County, why do we become so stringent and become beyond what is required of us? I'd like to know why, the reasons why. And not tonight, but do your homework on that and get back to John and the rest of this board on that. Sure. Regarding what we have here, based on what everybody else said, I agree. This is something that Steph and I have talked about too, that this is a true asset that's owned by the Village of Wheeling, the taxpayers, and that we should treat it just like we treat our fire engine or any other asset that we have in this community. It has a value, and that value should be not given away for nothing. And better yet, if that value is given to a future developer or something down the road in a TIF district, there should be something in there that we recapture our cost of that value. We've done infrastructure improvements, I know, for piping. The last I checked, I think any future development regarding using some of the acre feet comes with a price tag of some infrastructure around, what, $65,000, $68,000 for piping or whatever we need to do. I mean, that's cost, and that should not be just given away. So I think we have an opportunity here and an asset here that we can recapture to help all the taxpayers with our revenue source, as a revenue source. And I agree with Jim. You know what? It's part of an RDA. It's a redevelopment agreement. And that's got to get passed by this board, whether it be cash for an incentive to build a development, or in your case, like you're talking about the senior housing over here, that this is their incentive. But it's an incentive that the village is giving that we own that we should recapture down the road, in my opinion. Not just to give it away, because it comes with a price. But I don't know, any other thing you want to add, John, to what we're
No,
talking about
I think
here?
I understand the direction. Again, this was just a philosophical discussion. Staff can't approve anything. All of these formalities would come before the board on a project-by-project basis, but I think I hear the general direction is treat it as an asset. The incentive for a project is an incentive for a project that is treated separately than the fact that, oh, by the way, we have these acre feet to sell in order to recapture some of that investment that we have put into creating the acre feet, and the simple fact that we are in the lucky position of having acre feet to give away or sell. So philosophically, I hear you saying that there's revenue that can be made, and again, every time a development comes up, ultimately the decision will be for the board, but at least staff knows how to approach and talk through the process with the developer.
Anything else from anybody? Trustees? Good? Okay. Thanks, Mark. Official communication, Trustee Brady.
Briefly, I'm going to just say something about the crosswalks, as Ms. Papato said at the beginning of the meeting. You know, I have doubts on this study that we had done by this outfit that came in and reviewed our need for crosswalks in the community. And for them to spend all this time looking at every aspect of this community and coming up with one that I think everybody in this room agrees is needed, it was a waste of money. First of all, there's 25 people crossing a street in the course of a day when they were only out there counting for 8, 10 hours. I tell you, I personally see 4, 5, 6 kids crossing in the dark at night. They sit here and they see 25 people crossing the street during the day. What about the 50 that cross at night? That's the trouble when you hire somebody that doesn't live in this town, has no idea what this town is like or what goes on inside this town, and tell them, tell us what we need. Why don't we involve residents? Why don't we involve committees, the people that live here to see what's going on in these studies? I think we'd be a lot farther ahead. People who live there, people who live in the east side, west side, and ask these people, what do you see? Report what you see so we know what's going on. Is it needed or not? And when it comes to public safety, is it more important that the pedestrian break the law or the driver breaks the law? Who's going to lose if they get hit? So this thing is going in the wrong direction in my eyes, and I tell you, I'm very concerned. I think as a board, we should get together on this here and decide, are we going to do crosswalks? Let's get real about it, and let's do something about it, and let's get a hold of whoever we got at IDOT. And I tell you, I don't think that IDOT does not answer to the same people that in Springfield as they, with the state. It's part of the state. And if we ask our legislators to help us with this here, I think they'll help us. Thank you.
Trustee here.
Yes, thank you. I do want to thank the employees here in Wheeling after this recent storm we all experienced on Friday. Outstanding work done by the employees. It was nice driving around and seeing the police out there directing traffic through the intersections as the power went out, and I could name 1,000 other examples, but kudos to all of you, and thank you very much for your hard work. Thank you.
Trustee Lang.
To continue on what Bob said, nice job, everyone. Thank you.
Trustee Vogel.
Same, nice job. I think we still need to get ComEd in here and figure out what they're doing now, because the phone conversations that people are having with them are not, they're not getting answers. They're getting the runaround. So.
Okay. Trustee Hein.
Thank you. I too think the staff did an excellent job. The storm that came upon us was really a tough storm, and I think our infrastructure proved out pretty darn good, that it's in fairly good shape. We do have some problems, but for the intensity of that storm and as quickly as it hit, and the reaction by our staff was very nicely done and well coordinated. And I know the residents, some of the residents got hit pretty hard, and they had power out for a long time. But the most important thing is that we had no loss of lives, and our staff and our emergency people really responded 110%. So, thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Simpson.
I would just like to remind everybody that this coming Wednesday, the Wheeling Garden Club will be giving a presentation on pressing flowers, and it starts at 7 o'clock, and it's free, and it'll be at the Senior Center.
Thank you. Manager Svendelis.
Thank you. Piggybacking on some of the comments about ComEd, I would just like to say thank you to all of our residents and businesses for your patience during a very difficult storm period that lasted really up until last night. And of course, to express my thanks to staff, and I appreciate that all of you have done the same. There were 56 storm-related emergency calls and fire. Police were out for most of the weekend directing traffic at a number of major intersections to make sure that traffic continued to flow properly. as well as assisting from a safety perspective. Public Works has been out day and night since the storm began, clearing debris, clearing storm grates, trimming trees for safety issues hanging from sidewalks. Their work continues even now. And with that, I'd like to remind the public that the Department of Public Works is taking care of, and by that I mean chipping any of the storm-damaged trees that may have fallen on your property. We ask that you bring any of those limbs to the curb line in order for us to manage them and properly remove them. This project will continue until Friday the 12th. This is a service that we don't normally provide except for in extenuating circumstances, which certainly this is. So through Friday, if you bring any of your storm-related damaged tree limbs to the curb line, Public Works staff will chip them and remove them. And to make our lives easier, we ask that, and to make sure that we don't miss anything, ask that you call the Department of Public Works to let us know that you've put some branches there. That number is 847-279-6900, 279-6900, and that program will run through this Friday, end of workday. Also to help, especially since we know there's another storm coming on Wednesday, hopefully not to the degree that we experienced last Friday, I'm going to ask our IT department to put up some information that ComEd provided to me that may be helpful as far as what their priorities are during storm restoration, outage alerts and mobile phone, and some public safety awareness information. I'll put that on our front page so that the public has a better idea in advance of the next storm. A lot of it is they're relying heavily on their mobile phone app, and a lot of information is dispersed that way. Obviously, you can always still call in, but that is kind of their new frontline response. And the only caveat to that is that you have to sign up for it. So if you haven't signed up for it, you're not going to get any of the information. So I'll put all of that on one sheet and have that added to our website for the public's benefit.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I do also want to thank the village manager. Sometimes we forget the village manager when we thank the staff. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy, I'm telling you, he never stops, from texting to emails, and sometimes he hears all the kudos going out to the staff, but he oversees the entire operation. So what you see with the department heads and the employees comes basically from the village manager's office. John, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice
I appreciate
job.
And make sure maybe we can get a copy of that email to us.
Sure.
You know, so we can share it with our friends and
we'll put it together in a PDF that's easy. Sure.
Okay. Thanks, John. And again, kudos to you and staff. I was out of town. You and I were on the phone probably a dozen times, Saturday night and Sunday, at all hours of the night. And Bob, you're right. He had his hand on everything, and everything was working well. And I appreciate that as well. Staff, police department, fire department, guys were great. A couple things. It's ironic Trustee Brady, you brought up regarding this crosswalks. This morning, I had a meeting at the Northwest Municipal Conference. As I stated earlier, I'm going to chair the Transportation Committee this year, so we had like a pre-meeting this morning. And I was asked by their staff, what are some of the things on our agenda, my agenda, that I like to see done with the rest of the mayors and those who sit on that committee. Because, believe it or not, it's funny how you mentioned this, that it came back that other mayors in other towns are faced with the same problem, and it's IDOT. It's IDOT. And so we're going to get IDOT in there, the head engineer, for the October meeting. So we collectively as a group, not just the village of Wheeling, where if I get a dozen or 15 mayors screaming and yelling about crosswalks or other things that they have problems in their own town because they're faced with the same problem we are. I mean, we talk about Wolf Road for the last 10 years, jurisdiction getting done. We talk about Cook County finishing Hintz Road, promising us they were going to finish Hintz Road this year, only to see those monies go to the south side. It's got to end. It's got to end. And the legislators, God love them, but you want to know something? We directly got to go to these guys. And staff over there at Northwest is going to help us with that. And hopefully we can accomplish some things and get some things done this coming fall. So it's just the timing's good because it was brought up this morning. Again, PW, great job. A couple sad notes I wanted to share. over the weekend, we lost a longtime resident, and his family lives here, and a good friend, kind of a character, Otto Cascione, had passed away over the weekend. And always enjoyed Otto and the Chicago Cub stories and everything that he shared with me and his family and his kids. But he was a fixture around town, and he lost his battle of whatever he was going through. And matter of fact, I think a couple of weeks ago, he was at the Cub game. So it was surprising to hear that he had passed away. Also, on another sad note, former trustees Mike Horker and Pat Horker, their brother, James, suddenly, his wife passed away suddenly at the age of 42, 2 weeks ago. Stacy Horker, not Pat's wife, but James's wife. And again, James is the son of Bernie and Mike Horker, the brother of Mike, Patrick, Tim, and did I miss anybody? And Joe, of course, and Christopher Horker. So they have set up a fund for Stacy, and I wanted to share with everyone. Stacy left 5 kids, 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a set of twins, 3. This was unexpected, and here's a family that now lives in Mundelein, who obviously has strong ties to our community. I know Jim is one of the tow truck drivers, works with his other brothers and stuff like that. So they did set up a fund, and it's GoFundMe, GoFundMe.com. You can put in her name, Horker. They have their hands full. So if you see any of the Horkers in town, express your condolences to them. But this is a tragic thing that happened to a nice family that's trying to raise their kids and make a living up there in Mundelein. So our hearts and prayers go out to them. That's all I have. That's enough. And we do have executive session tonight to discuss the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the Village of Wheeling. I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Hines, second by Trustee Hare. Roll call, please.
1, 2, 3. Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes, thank you. We'll go into executive session in about 10 minutes, guys, okay? 10 to.